Hi everybody, I think this will be the last video in my foiling series. There are 4 previous videos, this will be the last, and I'm going to elaborate a little more on stamping, foiling stamped images, and also using the different foils, which would be Toto heat foil and Deco foil or American Crafts foil, which are pretty much the same thing. So I am using the mini mink. I do have it heated up to 4. That clicking you hear is normal. I'm on a craft mat. My desk itself is glass, so I don't recommend this. This does get pretty hot, so if you're going to do this somewhere, if you have a glass mat underneath, that would be probably ideal. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm checking out stamped images using Mink Reactive Paint, which I've put in this Distress ink pad. The stamp that I'm using is the Hero Arts Poinsettia stamp, which I think was part of last year's release. And I've stamped it out twice, let it dry. I don't know if you can see it there. I did it twice because the first stamping kind of pulled the paper up a little bit. And I am using just regular old Deco foil. And I am going to put it in a carrier sheet. There's a little piece there that's exposed. Let's do this. There we go. And you want to make sure that you try to flatten out that foil as much as you can. You don't want any air bubbles in there. And if you don't have carrier sheet, you can use parchment paper. My previous videos show how the mink held up against the laminator, and the laminator did pretty well, guys. So while that's coming out, I'm going to get the second piece ready, which was a second stamp off of the same image. But I didn't hold it on the paper as long. I just kind of stamped it and lifted it. Not too bad. Better than I expected, actually. So that is stamping. It looks very distressed. I kind of like it. That is stamping, foiling a stamped image with Distress Mink Reactive Paint, sorry, and putting it in an empty stamp pad, and then I just stamped it up. So that's the first image where I kind of let it set a second before I pulled it up. That is totally usable. I like that. I'm very, very surprised. I think because this was a very fine line stamp, it came out better. And before I was using thicker images and they didn't foil as good. So this is the second pass where I stamped it quickly. And this is very nice. Wow, I'm very surprised. I think my mistake before was trying to use too thick of a stamp. These are very detailed images, and these came out really good. And on the outside here, we have a little bit of excess foil. You just take a Tombow sand eraser. If you guys don't have these, I picked up a 2-pack at Blick, and you can just sand off that little extra that's on the outside there. Wow. Okay, so that worked out better than I expected. That's awesome. Alright, so part 2 of this is I did the same image. This time I only did it once, but I stamped it. I used my anti-static tool on the paper first. Then I stamped it in Versamark, and then I used super fine detail clear embossing powder from Ranger. So same image, except it's clear embossed. Same foil. Maybe because I move the heat up a notch too. I normally do 3 when I'm foiling, and this time I tried it on 4, and it's really working out well. I'm very impressed right now. Okay, so this is the heat embossed image. So what happens is the embossing powder gets reheated by the machine and causes the foil to stick to it. Now here, I think I had it too hot. Here it melted it so much that it just flattened it out, and this didn't stick at all. It didn't transfer at all. So I've never had luck with the heat embossing though, guys, ever. And I said that in the last video too. So scratch that idea. I think if you want to do stamped images, use the reactive paint, put it in an empty ink pad, and there you go. Okay, so my next question was, will the Toto foil work? So, you know what, I'm going to turn this down a notch to number 3 because I think it's too hot, because these two, I have 2 sentiments. These are from the Casual Fridays Christmas set, which I think was last year or 2 years ago. So I just stamped this sentiment here. Again, I did the Versamark and the Super Clear embossing powder, so they're both stamped out. I'm turning the heat down to 3, and I'm going to use both at the same time. The red is the deco foil, what we've been using. Actually, it's mink foil. I don't know if it makes a difference. It's pretty much the same stuff. Okay, and this green is from the Toto pack of hot foil, which is supposed to be used in the hot foiling machine. So once this is done blinking, that means it's ready to go and it's lowered its heat down. I would also like to mention this is a very warm project, so there's really nothing around it on my desk. I make sure that my kids don't come near this, and when I turn it off, I set it somewhere where it can take some time to cool down, because this is very, very warm and things will melt if you put them near it. So once this is cooled down, it'll stay green when it's ready to go. Alright, I don't want to waste any video, so I'm just going to pause the video for a second, guys, alright? Okay, guys, that took a minute to cool down. It's now at the 3 setting. And the reason, again, that I did it is because I used the heat embossing method on this next one. But really what I'm testing out here is how the Toto foil will react versus normal foil. I don't think that the Toto foil is going to work, but we will find out. I'm really surprised how cool these came out. I'm impressed here, because I didn't think it was gonna work. And the faster method, just to stamp and lift, worked better than stamping it and holding it down. So stamp and lift. Alright, here we go. I'm gonna turn this off and move it. Okay, so the red is mink foil, the green is Toto foil. We'll see how they work on the heat embossing method here. Ugh, the Toto foil stuck all over my carrier sheet. Okay, so there's the red. It came out a little better. It's not as clear as I would like it to be, but it did come out a little better. And here's the green. Whoa, yeah, hot foil likes to stick to everything. So just as I suspected, I didn't think the hot foil was going to work because it's specifically for the Toto machine, or the Anna Griffin, is it the pressing foil machine? I think that's what it's called. The hot foil is designed to stick to everything that has heat. So that's the difference. So Do not think that all foils are alike. Hot foil works for hot foil machines like the Toto or the Preston foil machine that Anna Griffin sells on HSN, and Deco foil. The other thing too is what I didn't show you guys, what a lot of people do with their foiling is they use a two-way pen. So this is like a two-way zig pen, which remains tacky. If you stuck something to it right now, it would be permanent. But I'm going to set this aside to dry, and you can see how the foils transfer over that way. The next project we're going to do is, I think I finally found an answer to the foiling with embossing folder. So hold on, guys. I have to get the Toto machine over here for that. But I did find a video on that, and I will look that up so I can give credit to the person who did that. And I will be back in 1 second, guys. Okay, guys, I'm back. So as you can see, I have the Toto machine set up. I have one of the new Anna Griffin Christmas dies heating up on there. We have to wait until this light turns green. So while it's doing that, the two-way glue pen has now dried. It's tacky. So how most people use the Deco foil or Mink foil is you can draw out your design or trace out your design with that two-way glue pen. And then the foiling will stick to that. So there's another way you can easily use foiling, just to give you a tip there. I forgot to mention that, I think, in one of the other videos. Alright, so what we're doing is we're waiting for this to heat up. While we're waiting for this to heat up, I have the die on there. What we're going to use today is the Toto Gold Pack foil rolls, and I did find a video which I haven't tested out yet. This was on YouTube. Her name is Georgia's Crafty Creations, and she has a Toto machine. She does quite a few things, but this is the only video I could find on using embossing folders. So I'm going to try her technique and see if it works, and then this is the end of my foiling video series. If it works, great. If not, then I'm just going to call it quits on trying to foil with embossing folders. But so far we've seen foiling with glue, foiling with toner papers, with die cuts, foiling printed out toners, papers, hot foiling with this machine, and foiling stamped images. Alright, so I just heard it click and the light turned green, so this is nice and warm now. And I'm going to put my piece of foil down, and we put the piece of foil down colored side down because we want, this is like a letterpress, so it's going to impress into the paper, so we want it. And then remember, the difference with hot foil is it will foil where it contacts with heat. Then we're going to put the paper down. And we have like an embossing folder, very squishy one. And then the top plate. We're going to roll that through. And hopefully this is on the correct sandwich we used last time. By the way, when you get your machine, my numbers were all black and it was hard to see. I just took a silver Sharpie marker over it so that I could see the numbers. Oops, I didn't have it centered, but let's see how it works. So because I didn't have that foil centered, it kind of overfoiled. But you get the gist of the idea. Anywhere that there was pressure, that there was heat, that's where it foiled. So that's how this machine works. Now moving on to the main experiment. Move that off to the cooling pad. Alright, so you do this at your own risk. This might melt my embossing folder. I don't know, but we're about to find out. This is the same embossing folder I've been experimenting with all week, and it's all like chewed up now, but that's okay. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the raised part down. Almost like this were going to be a stamped image, because that's the whole idea here. We're going to put that down. I have a piece of foil. Again, I want to do face down, right? No, colored side down. Colored side down. And I'm using Nina Solar white paper on this because I found that the foiling works better with a paper that has a little bit of coating to it. Not a matte paper. I guess Stampin' Up's paper would work really good because that has a little bit of a coating to it. But it gives the foiling something, instead of soaking into the paper, to stick to. Alright, we might have to adjust our settings here because this is a little thicker of a sandwich. So let me try to feed this through here. And you guys will find out if I melt my embossing folder down to nothing. And if this works, I give all the credit to Georgia's Creations because she is the one I saw do this, and that is the only video I saw with heat embossing with embossing folders. Okay, so I have it on a setting of 6 and it seems to be pretty tight, and I can see it's impressed into the paper there. So if nothing else, it works as an embossing machine. I don't know. We'll see. Ready? Oh, it sort of did. I think we just need to leave it in there longer. Let me see if I can line this up. It's just not hot enough. It definitely impressed the paper. All right, I'm going to put that embossing pad on here. Oh, see, now I moved it. I want to try to line this up. I'm just going to get a clean sheet of paper. Let's try a fresh piece of paper. The embossing worked for sure. There was some gold transfer, but not a lot. Come on, transfer. And it didn't overly... You can see it's very faint, but there is some gold transfer there. Oh my god, I'm so excited, guys, because this has not worked this whole video series. Thank you, Georgia. So I'm just trying to hold this down to make sure that it is heating up, because I think the embossing folder is thick and it's plastic. It's not metal, so it's not conducting that heat. So we're going to press this across again. I'm going to go really slowly over the image. And back the other way. So I have the embossing folder, the foil colored side down, the Nina Solar weight paper, the embossing plate, which I think they call the D plate. It doesn't have a letter on it. And then the cutting plate on top. And I have the machine set at a level 6. I'm going to lift the cutting plate, separate it from the embossing plate. And I hope I didn't move that too much. And I can feel the warmth coming through. It's not hot, guys. It's just really warm. I can see the foiling starting to stick here, so I'm going to pull it off. And that'll come off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Okay, here we go, guys. We might have done it too hot this time. Oh yeah, too much pressure. But it worked. It did work. So I did the first image too short and the last image too long. My embossing folder is still intact. It is warm. I don't feel like I jeopardized the embossing folder. It's warm, so it's soft. But I don't see that anything is lost its shape or integrity. I don't think I'd leave it on there too long. That's so cool. It actually worked. So here was the first one where we didn't let it warm up enough. So I would have to time it. And then here's the second one where we warmed it up too much. But the point is, yes, you can emboss with foil with embossing folders. That's what I want to say. You can foil with embossing folders. It just takes some time. I would be interested in seeing somebody do this with that press and foil machine from Anna Griffin, because I bet you can do the same thing, because that machine works with your Cricut machine, and you basically put the foil in, it heats up, and then you run it through her machine. So I bet it works really neat on that machine. That's the end of my foiling series, guys. You still have a few days to enter the drawing. Again, there's 3 prize packages: the Christmas stamping box, the winter box, and the foiling box. So if you enjoyed this series, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, guys, and keep on stamping.